Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew DeSantis.
And I'm Kaylie Shapiro.
And welcome to the 2026 Road to the Kentucky Derby.
And the Kentucky
Let's
Oaks.
start the show. Hi, everyone. Matthew DeSantis here with NYRA Bets, along with my very esteemed colleague, Kaylie Shapiro. And the Road to the Derby and Oaks is back. And you might say, Matthew, it's still 2025. Indeed, it is. We haven't even gotten to the Breeders' Cup, but the first official Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks points races are this Saturday at Churchill Downs. The Pocahontas for the Oaks, the Iroquois for the boys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Kaylie and I were with you all year last year doing this, and we're back and better than ever.
Definitely. I'm so excited to get started with this series again. I remember last time, that was when we grew. A lot of the loyal people that would keep watching our videos on the road to the 2025 Derby. I loved interacting with everyone and hearing everybody's opinions. It's obviously a little early to look towards, for sure prospects for the Derby and the Oaks. But I can't wait to talk about all the preps, and I can't wait for when our list gets started as well, our top 10s.
Those are going to happen after the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and Juvenile fillies, I think, already looking ahead to the Oaks and Derby. But yeah, believe it or not, even though we're not even in the fall, we're still in the summer of 2025. And with the Road to the Derby and Oaks has already started, because the winner of the Pocahontas and the Iroquois will each receive 10 points toward the starting gate of the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. Now, a couple of years ago, we saw a horse, West Saratoga, win the Iroquois and actually make the starting gate of the Kentucky Derby. Traditionally, the Iroquois is not necessarily the best predictor, though we have seen a horse like Not This Time, who's gone on to be a pretty successful sire, win this race. And last year, even though Jonathan's Way, who won this race, didn't really go on to do much, could I interest you in Sandman? Could I interest you in Owen Almighty? Could I interest you in a little horse named Magnitude? Those horses came back to be pretty significant factors on the Kentucky Derby prep trail at the very least. So you never know you might see in these races. And I think just another reason why it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's also a lot of fun because even if these horses don't end up in the Derby starting gate, maybe distance limitations down the line, etc., we'll see them somewhere else most of the time.
Absolutely.
Which is what we've seen with the horses that you just mentioned. So
I'm
super excited.
Absolutely. We need to talk to Magnitude about distance limitations. Maybe we get back to those Charlestown 4.5 furlong sprints. But anyway, listen, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be previewing these two races, the Iroquois and the Pocahontas, for Saturday. But like I said, this is going to be something every time that there is a prep race for the Derby and Oaks. Kaylie and I are going to come on. We're going to give you our picks. We're going to talk about our rankings and where things go. But you and I, luckily, we're in Saratoga all summer. We got to see some pretty successful potential Oaks and Derby prospects in the form of Tommy Joe and Ted Nafi that final weekend in the Spinaway and in the Hopeful. So those are really good.
Oh, not to get too ahead of myself, we'll see what happens, but they're definitely the best that we've seen so far
that I've seen.
Division. That we've seen in person, in my opinion. So I'm really excited. And I love Tommy Joe.
I know. He's really good. I love Ted Nafi, and I like Ted Nafi, Ned Toffee as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But listen, let's dive into these two fields for Saturday, and we'll start off with the Grade 3 Pocahontas going a mile on that one-turn configuration at Churchill Downs, coming out of that long chute for the fillies. And this is a 7-horse field. Your main favorites are parked a little further outside. Our two girls for Kenny McPeek, but your morning line favorite is the number 6 Dazzling Dame for Brittany Russell, 2-1 on the morning line. Your second choice, Miscomplicated, for trainer Ian Wilkes, followed by Starlit Sky, 9-2 for George Weaver. But you and I, Kaylie, we both see some value with Kenny McPeek. And while we might have the same top choice, I'm going to let you take the lead in talking about our two girls, because you've done a real big deep dive on this filly and you came away really impressed.
Well, for starters, definitely the 6-1 price was really exciting.
Yes, absolutely.
Handicapped the race prior to the odds coming out, and I imagine that she would actually be a pretty short price.
I thought 7-2. I thought thereabouts, 3-1, 7-2. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Not to sound rude, but we have to remember that this isn't David Aragona making the morning line.
We do have to remember that. Yes.
This could change a bit, but I definitely have a lot of interest in the number 5, 6-1 on the morning line, out of a Curlin mare that's unraced. Windstar owns this mare, right? Still to this day. Kenny McPeek bought this Caravaggio filly from the yearling sale, Keeneland September, out of book 2 for $165. That's a pretty decent price tag for a Caravaggio. If you look at their sales averages at the time, pretty low. And also taking into consideration the fact that Caravaggio, everyone knew he was going to Japan at that time. So he wasn't the most attractive sale sire. And they paid a lot of, Kenny McPeek put up a lot of money for this one, a decent amount, 165 out of an unraced mare. But the unraced mare comes from a really big family, and that's why Windsor still owns her. The second dam produced Good Samaritan. So big family here. She's definitely an impressive filly. I thought that on debut, she showed a lot of professionalism. She did cut the corner that day. That is really the one knock that I have on her, is that she cut the corner, but you know, she just happened to sit a nice trip. And I thought it was professional that she sat there and took a ton of kickback. And then after that, she made one move and drew off pretty easily. And she beat Miss Complicated that day. Granted, Miss Complicated stumbled pretty badly at the start. But I thought that our two girls was pretty professional. You know, Miss Complicated came in with the start under her belt prior as well. So this filly really impressed me. And on top of it, she's been working in company with a stablemate that McPeek has. I'm blanking on the name. Prowess. Yes. Prowess is a stakes place filly. Won on debut. Ran third in the debutante after.
At Ellis Park.
Ellis Park. And that filly is pretty quality, facing quality fields like Chopsticks.
And King Solver.
And King Solver as well. And our two girls blew by her in a workout. You can't find it on XBTV, but if you go on Kevin Kilroy's account, he posted a video, a short clip of just, I think, the gallop out, and she was pretty impressive. She just blew by the other filly, Prowess, that was being asked.
Prowse was being asked. And to be clear, I don't know if it was Brian who was riding our two girls that morning, but whoever was riding her was standing up and like trying to pull the horse up, and she was just blowing by Prowess like it was nothing. And so Kenny's got this one ready to go. And you're right, 165 for a Caravaggio filly is a pretty good price, especially when you don't have a unraced mare in terms of that first influence underneath. But here's the other thing. I'll tell you one thing I do know. We spent some time at Kenny's barn when he opened it up to the public that last weekend at Saratoga, showed people the Queen, Thorpedo Anna, showed people maybe a Derby horse, a horse that he said might be winning next year's Kentucky Derby. We'll get to him in a minute. But I know that this one's got a big hip. You know why? Because that's what Kenny looks for. Kenny likes a big hip on a filly. And they look a certain way. They walk a certain way. And our two girls at 6-1 feels like an absolute gem of a deal. I'd be happy with even 9-2 on this horse.
Yes, I completely agree. And not to get too deep in on the sales stuff, but anytime that you see him purchase a filly, a yearling filly, and he put up that much money. I mean, he spends 40 grand and gets the horse of the year, judging on the physical and the female family. This one, he put up some money for. I'd imagine that she has some ability, which we saw on debut. And she sat pretty close to a pace that was faster than a couple of your other shorter prices in here. She just impressed me more.
I agree. And speaking of that, let's go to the number 6, Dazzling Dame for Brittany Russell. This is a horse neither of us really love that much in this particular spot. I have her a little bit further down. You don't have her in the top 4 at all, and I don't blame you necessarily for that. This is one who just talk about easy trips. I mean, 5.5 furlongs moseying around at Laurel Park against state-bred competition in debut in a 4-horse field. Sure, she won, but again, that comes with a pretty big asterisk. And then last time out going a mile at Monmouth, you want to talk about a slow pace? New York turf racing pace, 1:14-1 to the 6 furlong mark. I mean, she was able to walk the dog up front. That ain't going to happen because of the horse directly to her outside, which is Embrace the Moment for Greg Compton. This one looked ultra impressive at Delaware Park, sprinting away and setting some pretty strong fractions herself. And she's feeling pretty good coming into this. Daughter of Yopon out of a Street Sense mare. I think Embrace the Moment's a nice little filly here. And honestly, if I'm playing this sequence in a horizontal fashion, I go 5-7 and I don't look back. These are my top 2. And I just really like these two. And Embrace the Moment assigned a 69 buyer speed figure in debut, which is the top in this field. So listen, quick turnaround. August 28th, the horse debuted and broke her maiden. But the fact Greg Compton sees fit to bring this one here, I think, does really speak to the confidence this one has. 5-1. Again, I think a very honest price in the morning line. I'd be shocked if you get it. But again, that's another one that I like more than the morning line favorite.
Definitely the number 6, Dazzling Dame. That horse, like you said, got away with 2 easy trips and also didn't take a step up. has 2 wins under her belt, sure, but didn't improve whatsoever, ran 264s. I'd rather go with one start, ran a 63, and has all the room to improve and did it pretty easily. This one, you know, and on top of it, Brittany Russell, she's a great trainer, but she's never won a race at Churchill Downs. That's just the stat.
Yeah.
And then also
don't get mad at the stat.
The only horse that she's placed with at Churchill Downs in a stakes race is Post Time.
Yeah.
So to me, I mean, I just don't really want to take a shot with the horse at 2-1. I think you'll see some in here step up.
I agree with you about that. And listen, Miss Complicated is a horse that, like you said, had a pretty significant issue in that debut effort at Ellis Park. And like you said, that was more than a bobble. That one almost went down and went to dead last and then rallied for second. So certainly Miss Complicated is a horse I have a lot of respect for, because I love when any horse does something they haven't done before. And so she sat kind of a very nice trip, didn't pass any horses, actually got passed late in debut, comes back second start, went off as the 8-5 favorite. And then she showed something she hadn't shown before, which is the ability to pass pass other horses, and passed them nearly all. Now we're going a mile, sired by complexity. We've seen some of those complexities be able to stretch out a little bit. Moplex strikes me as one of them, who we saw win the Ohio Derby, and probably is best at a mile. And so, 7-2, I think this one might float up a little bit. Yes, I know this is everybody's trick notes replay queen is going to be Miss Complicated, but I still think Ian Wilkes, Julian Leperoux, a complexity in a field where she's still a maiden. Do we really want to take 7-2? I wouldn't be surprised if she floats up closer to 5-1, 6-1.
To protect myself, I would have this one on my tickets. I go 2-5-7 on my tickets. Use those 3 and move on. Maybe if you're trying to play skinny, just single, the 5 or single whoever you feel strongly about. But Miss Complicated, I don't think should be overlooked, even though she's a maiden. I mean, on debut, I thought that there's nothing wrong with that first start.
No, not at all.
Second start, she bobbled pretty badly at the start, stumbled, and she was sitting in dead last at the back of the field. And the way that she ran on, you would imagine stretching out to a mile as well, that now that they know that as well, she could sit maybe mid-pack and work out a nice trip for sure. Now that we've seen that she has the ability to close the way she did after a bad start last time out at Ellis Park. So I have her in second. I think that she'll run a good race, good connections at Churchill Downs as well. Some of the best stats in here were from Ian Wilkes and Kenny McPeek that I found with 2-year-old in stakes races. So
absolutely. No, couldn't agree more. I got to give a shout out to my Rocky Royal girl, Taken by the Wind, who won up in Saratoga in an off-turf race, made an optional claimer, 75,000. Chris Elliott was aboard that day. Now, fellow named Irad Ortiz Jr. is up in the irons for this one. And listen, anybody who follows me on social media knows I love Rock Your World. I think he is a vastly underrated sire, and he is going to become a very successful one. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Into Mischief, but I think he is going to become a much more serviceable sire than perhaps what the initial $5,000 sire fee was for him at Spendthrift. And I think we've seen a lot of his runners win in debut and do very well too. Not surprising. He was a very precocious horse himself. So Rock Your World, it's funny, Taken by the Wind, another Kenny McPeek horse. You pointed out Irad's never ridden for Kenny at Churchill ever before.
And I think he's only ridden for him 10 times in general.
Yeah, it's not a common connection that you see there. And so listen, this one has the ability to maybe move forward. Also had a little bit of an easy trip in that debut, but still showed a lot of greenness that day. I remember kind of was, there's a note say kind of shied a little bit, but was a little all over the place in the stretch. And ultimately they'll put it together those last 100 yards and really started pulling away a little bit. And this feels like a Kenny McPeek special, a $20,000 filly as a yearling, a little bit of a, bargain shopping here with an underrated sire, but a First Samurai mare. And maybe Kenny has something with this one. And the fact that Irad sees fit to take them out is certainly encouraging.
Yes. And I know that Irad's probably, just there for the day.
Yeah.
But he, took them out on this film. Right. That definitely says something. And at the time, she sold for 20,000, but that was the average price of the Rock Your Walls around that time. Of course, you have a few outliers there that were really expensive. And also Kenny stayed in on this one. If you notice, one of the owners is Magdalena. So that's another thing that's interesting. And 7 furlongs is a tricky distance to get.
Yeah, it is.
And to win out on debut. And that was also towards the end of the meet where lots of trainers enter in horses that might not even be turf horses just to try to get a race at the possibility that it's taken off. So for me, I mean, a maiden claiming race at Saratoga, you're talking about the same, if not better, level of horses than a maiden special weight at Delaware Park or Louisville, in my opinion. So I wouldn't look at the maiden claiming and, scoff your nose up at that. I think that the horse could have ability. I have her 4th.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And we'll see. Like I said, I think she's got some ability. I think she can run underneath potentially in this spot at a little bit of a price. I'd be surprised if she doesn't float up from that 5 to 1. I don't see how you can look at Taken by the Wind and our 2 girls and have our 2 girls at the bigger price. That makes no sense to me at all under any circumstances. No. But that is the way we see the Pocahontas playing out. But let's transition to the Iroquois. By the way, before we do this, I should say, I know one person who won't be watching the Pocahontas. It's my brother. You know why? He was scared of the movie Pocahontas when he was a little kid. There was a shipwreck scene at the beginning of the movie Pocahontas. He used to cry through that when he was a little kid. We have to skip past the shipwreck scene and then start the movie after the shipwreck. Oh, Nathaniel, you're so silly. All right, here we go. Let's go to the Grade 3 Iroquois. This is going to be a lot of fun for the boys. Going a mile, 10-horse field. And your morning line favorite is the number 7 Comport, who's coming off a very impressive stakes win last time out at Ellis Park in that juvenile over your second choice Spice Runner at 7 to 2. Outside of those 2, this field really does open up, and I think that's very indicative of the way Kaylie and I see this race. I ultimately went with Comport as my top choice. This is a horse I just have a lot of respect for. Eddie Keneally, like you mentioned, has some good numbers at Churchill Downs. Tyler Gaffleone, glad to see him back healthy and racing. And this is a horse that just hasn't gotten slower, has moved forward in every single start, and seems to appreciate distance even more. Last time out, sat that catbird trip right off the flank of Spice Runner, and at 7 furlongs was able to blow right by and keep going. You'd imagine going a little bit further is not going to be a problem at all for this horse, and the only loss was a second in the Bachelor Manor to Romeo. Otherwise, this is a horse that really, like I said, has impressed thoroughly and won at Churchill Downs already in debut. So a lot to like here with, again, a horse that doesn't have a huge pedigree collected out of a flatter mare, but, sold for $135,000.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't have a true knock on this horse on Comport. I just viewed a possibility of the number 5 improving a bit here, Spice Runner, for some pretty good connections. I mean, and with Comport, we saw how that horse Romeo ran in the whole
did not run back well
did not run back well at all, and then beat Spice Runner last time. I'm going to take a shot with Spice Runner because yes, Comport is taking a step up with every start, but look at Spice Runner, 6 furlongs, ran a 55. Threw in kind of a clunker that day, granted. On debut, 5 furlongs, 59. Stretches out to 7 furlongs in the third start, gets a 75, running second to Comport. This is a gun runner. I'd imagine stretching out to a mile is going to actually really move this one up when you see the big step up that he took last time out going 7 furlongs. So I'm going to take a shot with this one. I know that he can rate as well. Clearly.
Yeah, he did that in debut.
Right. I'd imagine he's going to rate right here, stretching out, and also is the full sibling to Gunite.
Pretty good horse.
I mean, Gunite really was precocious, but just continued to improve as well, and is really one of my favorite horses. So
a hard horse not to root for. I always a big fan of Gunite, and also we should say Jose Ortiz back aboard.
And he always rides well, obviously, at Churchill Downs. He's probably my favorite jockey to bet at Churchill Downs. Always rides great there. And then you have Winchell as the owner of this horse. Pretty good connections. Asmussen and Ortiz, Jose Ortiz, pretty good stats.
Pretty good stats. 29% over the last year together with 178 mounts. So absolutely a lot of success. Couple of things. One, you and I both love Gunite. I will say the one thing about Gunite, 0 for 3 going a mile in his career. So the 7 furlongs was always his kind of sweet spot, but the mile may be a little bit of a question. Here's the other thing interesting about Steve Asmussen over the last 5 years, 0 for 20 in 2-year-old stakes races at Churchill about a mile or longer. Interesting. Steve's always got a lot of really good sprinters. Question of whether they can stretch out. Listen, it's 7-2. I think this is the logical alternative to Comport. And if you don't want to take too short of a price, this is the logical place to go in terms of Spice Runner. And I think that ability that you showed, that you said in debut, in terms of being able to rate, is going to be really effective in this spot. So because of the number one, who's probably going to want to go to the front, or even if it's not the number one, certainly the number two could flash some speed as well. And so that's going to give Spice Runner a target to look at going down that initial backstretch.
Definitely. And it's a good point about Gunai. I mean, he was very compact horse, very much a sprinter type build. I haven't seen Spice Runner in person based on the video. I mean, I think a mile should be no problem, but we'll see. I do like the work pattern a lot though.
Oh, yes.
Bullet work and then a maintenance work coming in this. That's a really good pattern.
That's the Steve Asmussen pattern.
Yeah, I'm going to take a shot with this one. I mean, 7-2, but by no means would I be leaving the 7 Comport off my tickets. I'm not trying to play against him here. I mean, if you're trying to make money, I'd box the two of them and I have both of them on my tickets.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And by the way, we should say in that last race in the juvenile, Spice Runner was 6.5 lengths clear of everybody else. So it's not as if he was fading that badly coming down at 7 furlongs. And again, you like to see that bullet maintenance workout pattern from Steve Asmussen runners. And listen, always bet gun runner is not a bad strategy to go in with these 2-year-old races.
Definitely. And not for nothing, but, Keith Asmussen, I think, was riding that day and, now gets Jose Ortiz back. So
Jose's back,
can make a little bit of a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one horse I do want to talk about that I like quite a bit is the number 1, Nothing Personal. Another great Compton horse, Jamie Rodriguez in town on the mount. This one could not have looked more impressive in debut at 7 furlongs at Colonial. You said a tricky distance to run at. And this one came out, ran a hole in the wind that day, showed the ability to rate, and then drew off by almost 9 lengths, beating a horse and Tracks, who came back to actually win next time out and improve his buyer speed figure 10 points. So that really said a lot about the field that he beat. Son of Violence, that sold for $270,000 in that East Coast May OBS sale. And so again, inside rail is always tricky coming out of that chute at Churchill Downs. I am a little worried about that. No two ways about it. This one does have good early speed, so I'm hoping that sort of initial speed can get him into good position. But I thought at 8-1 was certainly an interesting alternative potentially to the top 2 choices, and maybe a price to throw in if you're boxing some horses in an exacta trifecta situation.
For sure. I mean, a 76 buyer speed figure on debut, you have to take that pretty seriously. And the horse clearly has some speed, so you'd imagine that he should be able to get out of the gate well. But, I would take a shot even on top if he didn't draw the 1 hole.
I know. I know.
That's just the one thing. You never know until they do it. And even if they do, you still never. I mean, but with this one, 8-1, like you said, I'll definitely throw this one into some tries for sure.
Absolutely. And also the jockey, Jamie Rodriguez, no knock at Jamie, but he just doesn't ride Churchill very often. So again, not very familiar maybe with the chute and some of the dynamics coming out of it. You have somebody like Brian Hernandez up on this. You probably feel a little bit more confident about that horse getting out. Let's go to the outside with some of our underneath choices or deeper underneath choices. You like the number 8 Vost a little bit. 4 trainer Will Walden, 12-1 on the morning line, sired by Instagram. Talk to me a little bit about this one, who won in debut and really did show some ability doing it.
Yeah, won on debut, and Will Walden with last out winners has some pretty good stats. And Churchill, he has pretty good stats as well. This is one that I just have a little bit of interest in at a price. I was looking at all the other options, and the 8 kind of stuck out to me. I think I have this one 3rd or 4th. I had the 1 in the 8, vice versa. But yes, I have this one 3rd. But my opinion on this one is, I mean, look how far back he was sitting in 10th and worked out a pretty good trip that day, has been working well since. And Florent Giroux stays aboard. I mean, that's a pretty good jockey to have aboard at Churchill Downs as well. And
that's a good asterisk at Churchill Downs. Not at Monmouth Park. At Churchill Downs, he's a good jockey to have aboard. I agree. And
also that one drew the 1 hole on debut as well. And that's also tricky. One at 7 furlongs. There's a little bit to like about this one. And Will Walden, I mean, his barn's on fire. And he had a pretty good meet at Saratoga. He did. And, his runners do well in Kentucky as well. So I wanted to throw this one in at 12-1. Pretty interesting.
I couldn't agree more. And I took a long look at this one as well. That ability to pass horses is always so interesting because that's what you want to see out of a field where a lot of horses like to be up front, going a new distance. Who do I like to see? A horse that can pass other horses and can come from off the pace. Speaking of that, that's what led me to the number 9. 9-ball, appropriately slotted in this particular case. 12 to 1 on the morning line for Riley Mott, sired by Code of Honor. This one was, again, a kind of a bargain basement purchase, $20,000 at last year's yearling sales, but took a while to debut, but again, showed that ability to get off and pass horses and got up in time with Jamie Torres aboard at Ellis Park. So again, another horse that you go, geez, has the ability to pass. Now you draw a little further outside, was not stuck inside, but was sitting in the third hole there. Now you draw a little further out in the field. Maybe Jamie can kind of slot this one in appropriately. Nice works leading up to the last race. Again, a quick turnaround for Mott. So I like that they see a lot of confidence here with this one. The other thing is, half sibling to a horse, Bethlehem Road, who won his first 3 starts, including a stakes race at Parks going 1.70 miles. So, there's some precocity there underneath. Even though it's not a big female family, there's a couple of notable runners out of that one. So, like I said, I thought 9-ball was a little bit interesting. Again, underneath 12 to 1 at a bit of a price.
Yeah, I was between the two of them. The 8
I think that's
out of price, but we'll see how it goes. Either or. Throwing in supers, I think one of them's going to deliver. Of course, I prefer the 8, but your 9, I spent a lot of time looking at as well. But this is a pretty nice field. I'm excited for the race. And,
it is a pretty nice field.
I'm excited to see Spiced Runner and also Comport go head to head, and then we'll see where they stand. We will.
And what's interesting is if you look at it, even though Spiced Runner is, I should say Spice Runner. It's not, I always want to make it a past tense spiced, but it's Spice Runner. Apologies for that. But one of the things is, because of the gun runner status, he's the one who a lot of people would probably assume has the bigger Derby future. Whereas you look at Comport, sired by Collected, you go, well, maybe that's one's just going to be a one-turn horse. You never know who's going to come out of this race, who's going to really pop. And it could be some of the ones underneath that we talked about a little bit who might ultimately have that lasting impact on the Derby trail. But listen, going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to check out all of our great promotions and all of our great content on NYRA Bets. We're back to Aqueduct this week. Tomorrow. That's pretty exciting. We're taking the A train. Well, you're taking the A train. I'm driving in. But listen, it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of great content for you this fall. And like I said, we're all on the Derby and Oaks Trail for 2026 already. Kaylie, any final words today for this weekend?
Just can't wait to get back to Aqueduct tomorrow and get the fall started. It's going to be a great one.
Exactly.
And excited to have this show back. I mean, it was so fun last year.
Yes.
So really looking forward to this.
Excited for that. Over under how quickly we need to call maintenance for the air conditioning / heating at Aqueduct.
I don't know.
I'm going to say within the first 20 minutes. All right. Listen, on that note, we are going to sign off, but we're going to have a great weekend of racing. Churchill's running. We got some huge races up at Woodbine as well. We got some great races at Aqueduct this weekend. So listen, make sure to check it all out on NYRA Bets. For Kaylie Shapiro, my name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and prosperous day at the races. And reminding you, friends, it's now post time.